Hello, I bring you my family revenge, which is called You're Not Part of This Family Anymore. I showed up anyway, and the birthday guests chose to leave with me. As the night wore on, more people in our group shared their thoughts on the whole situation. Brooke told me that she always thought Bradley was arrogant, and that she was happy when she heard about the divorce. Gabriel confessed that our mother had tried to convince him not to talk to me for the past few months, but that he had always ignored her. "Family is family," he said, "and you have always been one of the best people in this family." When we finally left Murphy's around 1 a.m., I felt renewed. Not only because I had had a good time, but because I discovered that I had more support than I had imagined. Nathan gave me a big hug goodbye. "Victoria, don't let a few bitter people define your worth. You are amazing, and you always have been." Christopher was the last to say goodbye. "Vic, I want you to know that you're always welcome in my home. Always. And if Rebecca doesn't like it, that's her problem." "Thank you, Christopher. That means a lot. And another thing, I'm going to talk to Mom about all this. I can't promise she'll change her mind quickly, but I'm not going to let her treat you like this anymore." Driving home that morning, I reflected on the whole experience. Yes, it was painful to discover that some members of my family were willing to abandon me based on prejudice and misunderstandings. But it was also eye-opening to discover how many people genuinely cared about me. My mother's words, "You're not part of this family anymore," still echoed in my head, but now they carried a different weight. Maybe I wasn't part of the toxic version of a family she was trying to build, a version based on appearances and judgments. But I was definitely part of the real version of a family, the one made up of people who loved me unconditionally. 3 days later, I got a text from Christopher. "Rebecca wants to apologize to you. She realizes she overreacted. Do you want to have lunch with the two of you on Friday?" I'm still deciding whether to accept or not. Part of me wants to give it a second chance. Another part of me thinks that some bridges, once burned, can never be completely rebuilt. But one thing I know for sure, I will never again allow anyone to make me feel like I don't deserve to be part of my own family. And if that means showing up at parties where I'm not welcome, then so be it. Because sometimes, the best way to deal with rejection is to simply refuse to accept that it defines who you are. You're not part of the family anymore. I went anyway, and the birthday party guests decided to hang out with me. You won't believe what happened to me last weekend. I'm still trying to process it all. Because honestly, I never imagined my own family would be capable of something like this. But let me tell you from the beginning, because this story has twists and turns that you need to hear. It all started 3 weeks ago when I got a call from my sister-in-law, Sarah. She was planning a surprise birthday party for my brother Michael, who was turning 40. Sarah has always been a bit of a drama queen, but this time there was something different in her voice. She spoke softly, as if she were whispering secrets. "Jessica, I need to talk to you about Michael's party," she said hesitantly. I was in the middle of a meeting at the office, but the urgency in her voice made me pay attention. "Sure, Rebecca. What happened?" "Well, it's just..." She paused for a long moment. "The family decided it would be best if you didn't come." For a second, I thought I had misheard. "What do you mean?" "You know how tense things have been since the divorce and everything. Your mother thinks your presence might make some family members uncomfortable." My divorce. Of course, that was what it was about. After 15 years of marriage, when I found out that my ex-husband Bradley was having an affair with his secretary, I was the villain in the story. It didn't matter that he had cheated on me, lied to me for months, and destroyed our family. Somehow, in my family's minds, I was the one who was the problem, for not trying to save the marriage, and for filing for divorce. "Rebecca, it's my brother's birthday. I grew up with him. I've known him longer than you." "I know, Victoria, I know. But you understand the position I'm in, right? I can't go against the whole family. I hung up the phone, my hands shaking. 15 years married, always the perfect daughter, always present at every family gathering. And now I was being ostracized like an outsider. That night, I tried calling Christopher, but he didn't answer. I texted my mom, Catherine, explaining that I wanted to talk. Her response was cold and blunt. Victoria, sometimes tough decisions are necessary to maintain family harmony. I hope you understand. Family harmony. As if I were the source of all discord. The next few days were an emotional roller coaster. One minute I was furious, the next I was hurt beyond words. My best friend, Stephanie, tried to talk me out of going anyway. Victoria, why do you want to be somewhere where you're clearly not welcome? She asked during our lunch on Thursday. Because it's my family, Stephanie. Because I didn't do anything wrong. Because my brother deserves to have his sister there for his birthday, even if he's too much of a coward to admit it. But what if it's embarrassing? What if they really treat you badly? I had thought about it before, but there was something inside me that refused to accept this exclusion silently. Maybe it was stubbornness, maybe it was justice, or maybe it was simply the fact that I was tired of being the one who always gave in to keep the peace. On Saturday morning, I woke up with a determination that surprised me. I went to the mall, bought Christopher a beautiful gift, a special edition of his favorite book, which I knew he had wanted for months, and picked out a dress that made me feel confident and beautiful. When I got home, I picked up the invitation that Rebecca had sent me weeks earlier when I was still invited. The address was for a fancy restaurant downtown, a place I knew well. The party would start at 7 o'clock. At 6:30, I parked my car across the street and watched the people arrive. I recognized several faces, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends of Christopher's whom I had known since I was a teenager. My stomach was in knots, but my resolve remained firm. When I walked into the restaurant, the silence was almost palpable. It was as if a movie had paused. Rebecca was near the entrance, arranging gifts, and when she saw me, her expression was one of pure panic. "Victoria, you came." "Of course I came. It's my brother's birthday." She looked around nervously. "But we talked about it." "You talked. I listened, but I didn't agree." At that moment, my mother approached. Catherine had always been an elegant woman, but at that moment her expression was far from elegant. "Victoria, what are you doing here?" "I came to celebrate Christopher's birthday, Mom, just like I have for years." "We made it clear that it would be best if you didn't come." "You made your opinion clear, but I'm an adult and I can make my own decisions." The awkwardness in the air was almost tangible. People began to whisper, and I could feel the curious stares. My mother leaned closer and said, quietly but audibly enough for a few people nearby to hear, "Victoria, you are no longer part of this family, not after everything you've done." These words hit me like a punch in the gut. Not after everything I'd done? I had done nothing but refuse to accept being betrayed and humiliated in silence. "All I did was divorce a man who cheated on me, Mom. I'm sorry if that doesn't fit your definition of a perfect family." At that moment, Christopher appeared. When he saw me, his expression was a mix of surprise, embarrassment, and something I wanted to believe was relief. "Vic, you made it." "Happy birthday, Christopher." I held out the gift to him. 40 years. Who would have thought? Rebecca quickly chimed in. "Christopher, honey, why don't we go greet the other guests?" But before they could drag me away, something unexpected happened. Nathan, my favorite cousin, approached with a huge smile. "Victoria, I'm so glad you came. I was wondering where you were. Nathan, I gave him a hug, grateful for at least a warm welcome. Man, you look beautiful. How are you handling this whole situation? Before I could respond, Nathan's wife, Allison, joined us. Victoria, honey, you have no idea how good it is to see you here. Did you guys know I wasn't officially invited? Nathan grimaced. We did, and we thought it was ridiculous. Your family, period. Slowly, other people started to approach. Marcus, Christopher's childhood friend, came over to greet me warmly. Victoria, it's been a while. How are you? I'm fine, Marcus. Thanks for asking. I heard about the divorce. Man, Bradley's always been a jerk. You deserved better. This was the first time in months that anyone in my family, or close to my family, validated my feelings about the divorce. For a moment, I felt like I could breathe again. As the evening wore on, I realized that there were two clear factions at the party. On one side were my mom, Rebecca, and a few older family members who looked at me with disapproval. On the other side were Nathan, Allison, Marcus, and several others who treated me normally, as if nothing had changed. The most awkward moment came when it was time for the speeches. Rebecca had prepared a slideshow of family photos from over the years. I noticed that every photo I was in had been carefully edited to remove me or simply not included. 25 years of family memories, and I was erased as if I had never existed. When Rebecca finished her presentation, Christopher stood up to speak. He thanked everyone for coming, talked about family and how important it was to have the people he loved around. His eyes met mine for a moment, and I saw something that looked like an apology there. But he didn't say anything. He didn't mention me, didn't acknowledge me, nothing. Then Nathan stood up. Can I make a toast too? Rebecca looked nervous. Sure, Nathan. I want to toast not just Christopher, but our entire family, to the people who have been with us through thick and thin, to the people who have had the courage to make the tough decisions when necessary. He looked directly at me. And to the people who have the courage to show up, even when they're not welcome, because they know that family love is greater than any temporary drama. The silence was deafening. Some people clapped hesitantly, others fell. After the toast, things got even more tense. My mom was visibly irritated, and Rebecca looked like she was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. That's when Marcus approached me. Victoria, a group of us are thinking about going to Murphy's pub after here. Do you want to come? Murphy's was an Irish bar a few blocks away from the restaurant. It was an unpretentious place we used to hang out when we were younger. Who's going? Me, my wife Brooke, Nathan, Allison, a few other friends of Christopher's. We want to continue the celebration in a more relaxed way. I looked around. The official party was clearly coming to an end, and the tension in the air was getting unbearable. You know what? Why not? What happened next was surreal. As Marcus's group started to form to leave, other people started to join in. First, it was cousin Gabriel and his girlfriend. Then it was my parents' neighbors, who had always been close to me. Then a few more of Christopher's friends. When Rebecca realized that half of the guests were getting ready to leave, she panicked. Guys, where are you going? The party isn't over yet. We're going to Murphy's, Marcus replied casually, to continue the celebration there. But we booked this place until 10. Nathan shrugged. So you guys can stay and enjoy yourself. What shocked me the most was when Christopher approached the group. Can I come too? Rebecca's mouth fell open. Christopher, it's your party. Exactly, and I want to go where I feel most comfortable to celebrate. I couldn't hide my surprise when my brother came up to me directly. Vic, I'm sorry about all this. I didn't know how to handle the situation. Christopher, No, let me tell you, you're my sister. Always have been, always will be, and I'm sorry if you felt left out. Tears began to form in my eyes. Thank you. Shall we go to Murphy's, like old times? We left the restaurant in a group of 15 people. Rebecca stayed behind with my mother and a few family members, visibly upset with the turn of events. At Murphy's, something magical happened. For the first time in months, I felt truly at home. We talked, laughed, and told embarrassing stories about Christopher. Marcus and Brooke filled me in on their lives. Nathan and Allison talked about their plans to have children. Gabriel introduced me to his girlfriend, Sophia, who turned out to be a lovely person. Around 11 o'clock that night, Christopher came to sit next to me at the bar. "Vic, can I talk to you?" "Sure. I wanted you to know that I never agreed with this whole thing about excluding you from the party thing, but I also didn't have the courage to confront Rebecca and her mother about it." "Christopher, you don't have to pick sides. I understand that it's complicated." "No, I do need it, because you are my family, and real family doesn't abandon family, regardless of divorce or anything else." We began a conversation that should have happened months ago. He told me about the pressure he was under from Rebecca and our mother to keep me away. Apparently, they thought my negative energy from the divorce could contaminate other people in the family. "Negative energy," he said, making air quotes with his fingers, "like you're radioactive or something." We laughed together, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had my brother back. As the night wore on, more people in our group shared their thoughts on the whole situation. Kelly told me that she had always thought David was arrogant and that she was happy when she heard about the divorce. Daniel confessed that our mother had tried to talk him out of talking to me for the past few months, but that he had always ignored her. "Family is family," he said, "and you've always been one of the best people in this family." When we finally left Murphy's around 1 a.m., I felt renewed. Not just because I had enjoyed myself, but because I discovered I had more support than I had ever imagined. Tom gave me a big hug goodbye. "Jessica, don't let a few bitter people define your worth. You're amazing. You always have been." Michael was the last to say goodbye. "Jess, I want you to know that you're always welcome in my home, always. And if Sarah doesn't like it, that's her problem." "Thank you, Michael. That means a lot." "And another thing, I'm going to talk to Mom about all this. I can't promise she'll change her mind quickly, but I'm not going to let her treat you like this anymore." Driving home that morning, I reflected on the whole experience. Yes, it was painful to discover that some members of my family were willing to abandon me based on prejudice and misunderstandings. But it was also eye-opening to discover how many people genuinely cared about me. My mom's words, "You're not part of this family anymore," still echoed in my head, but now they carried a different weight. Maybe I wasn't part of the toxic version of family she was trying to build, a version based on appearances and judgments, but I was definitely part of the real version of family, the one made up of people who loved me unconditionally. 3 days later, I got a text from Michael. "Sarah wants to apologize to you. She realizes she overreacted. Do you want to have lunch with the two of you on Friday?" I'm still deciding whether or not to accept. Part of me wants to give it a second chance. Another part of me believes that some bridges, once burned, can never be completely rebuilt. But one thing I know for sure: I will never again allow anyone to make me feel like I don't deserve to be part of my own family. And if that means showing up to parties where I'm not welcome, then so be it. Because sometimes, the best way to deal with rejection is to simply refuse to accept that it defines who you are. If you liked this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Leave your opinion in the comments. I'll be here, and see you next time.